Hey everyone, Gavin from Paddle here, and I'm super excited to share with you our latest product for app developers called Checkout Starter Kit. It's a Vercel template, which makes it really easy and fast for any app developer to set up their own external web checkout flow as part of any in-app purchases that they have in their app. Now, what's really cool about it is it's a Vercel template, which means it's completely customizable in terms of code, but it also has everything you need to very quickly design and build a Paddle web checkout. Because it's a Vercel template as well, you don't have to worry about setting up any of your own web infrastructure. It's completely hosted and deployed by Vercel. And on top of that, it'll be on your own custom domain for your app. So lots of wins there. Now, one caveat is the fact that there is a website approval process for the web checkout because you do have custom code in there that Paddle will take about 2 to 3 business days to complete. But the setup itself, very fast, very easy. And you can do a little bit of other development on the side while you're waiting for that approval to go through. So let's jump right in. We're here in the Paddle dashboard. And the very first thing I need to do is create a product that exactly maps the pricing that you specify in your app's paywall. So I'm going to go into catalog and select products. I'm going to create a new product, and we're using a yoga test app here. So I'm going to call it yoga test and save the product. Now, here's where I actually set up the pricing for this. I'm going to select new price, set it at a reasonable $6.99 USD, and just quickly give it an internal description so I know what it is. Now, from here, we actually want to save the price ID because that's actually what we're going to use as a parameter in our app along with the link to the checkout that we're about to create. So now that we've completed setting up our price for our future checkout, it's time to set up the checkout itself. So I'm here on the Vercel template starter page. I can get here directly from the Vercel template page or directly from the dev docs, your choice. And my goal here is to take the checkout starter kit GitHub repo that contains the Vercel template and clone it into my own repository. So since I'm using a yoga test app here, I'm going to call it yoga test 1. And I go ahead and create the new repository with all of the code and everything like that that you need to set up the web checkout. Now, the next step is to set up our environment variables, which specify to the web checkout all of the different things it needs to do. And before I continue, I should mention that if you want to have any custom implementations or custom changes to the web checkout, all I need to do is just go to the GitHub repo that I just created, throw in all my custom code, do everything that I need to do. And when I'm ready to deploy, I just come back here and add the environment variables. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. First thing I need to add is my Apple ID for my account and my app. So I'm going to go ahead and put in a random test ID here. And next, I need to actually use my bundle ID, which is basically the ID for my app itself. So putting that in as well, I put in example app. Next, we have the redirect URL. This one's pretty important because what it tells the web checkout is after the user successfully makes a transaction on it, where do we want to redirect them to? In this case, we want to redirect them back to our app. So I just put the address for my app in. 1 second. There we go. Now that web checkout will know after successful transaction, we're going to take the user back into our app. Next, we need the Paddle client-side token. That's pretty easy to get. All you need to do is go into the Paddle sandbox, or not the Paddle sandbox, the Paddle dashboard, and you can get that from the auth section. So putting that in, here's our fake client-side token. Next, we're telling the web checkout whether this is a sandbox or a live environment. In this case, I'm just going to put sandbox because, again, we're doing some tests here. And finally, we use that price ID that we set up in the previous step. So the web checkout knows exactly how much to charge the user when they arrive at the checkout. So I hit deploy and wait for it to deploy. And once it's complete, I'll have my very own working Paddle external web checkout. And here we go, deployment complete. So continue to the dashboard. And the one piece of information we need here is basically the URL for our deployment. So I'm going to copy that down and save that for the next step. And now we can move on to actually getting the deployment, the checkout approved by Paddle. So moving on to the Paddle dashboard. So now that we've successfully set up our web checkout through the Vercel template, it's time to actually get the deployed web checkout approved by Paddle. This is a necessary step because Paddle's a merchant of record, and because this is a Vercel template, anyone can add any custom code to it. So we just got to make sure everything's correct and going to work properly. So super simple process. All I need to do is go in the Paddle dashboard, hit checkout, and click website approval. From here, I just hit add a new domain, enter the address, the URL of the Vercel template, Vercel deployment for my checkout, and hit submit for approval. Now, because this is the Paddle sandbox that I'm using, it was approved right away. But if you're using the live production version, you can expect it to take up to 2 to 3 business days for it to be approved. But once it's approved, your web checkout is officially able to be deployed and go live and will actually work. Now, there is one step that I'm not going to show here. That is everything to do on the app side, and you have to do 2 things there. One of them is take the Vercel deployment link that we just got approved and add it to a button in your app just to make sure that when the user hits the button, they actually get redirected out of the app into the web checkout. You're also going to put your price ID as a query parameter in that button, so the web checkout knows what to charge the user. On top of that, you have to set up entitlements, which is also really easy. If you're a Paddle user and a RevenueCat user, that's actually automatically taken care of. No further interventions from you. But if you have a custom deployment for entitlements, basically what you need to do is set up a webhook handler in your endpoint and listen for the webhook that's sent when the user successfully transacts through the web checkout. There's a lot more information in the dev docs, but it is a pretty straightforward process. So now, let's go see what this all looks like with an actual live version of the web checkout and our yoga test app. Now, let's watch the external web checkout that we just created in action with an actual in-app payment flow. So I have here our yoga test app, and we're on the home page. So navigating to the paywall, we can actually find our Save 30% on Web button, where we've actually embedded the URL that we generated when we were creating our external web checkout. So navigating down to that, clicking Save 30% on Web, and we find that the link takes us out into Safari and takes us to the web checkout that we just created. Now, one thing that's really cool is Apple Pay and Google Pay are enabled right out of the box with Paddle. So that's going to be the easiest option for most users. I'm going to follow that here, click Pay, verify my transaction, and wait for it. Boom, there we go, purchase complete. Now, this is where the redirect URL that we specified earlier when we were setting up our checkout comes in. Whatever that URL is, when the user actually hits open in this dialog, that box that opens, that is where the web checkout will redirect the user to. So in our case, this was the yoga test app. I'll go ahead and hit open. And when we navigate back to the app, we find that the features that we just purchased are now unlocked. Now, if you're a RevenueCat user as well as a Paddle user, all of this was done automatically through entitlements. But if you have a custom system, this will be done through those custom webhooks that I was talking about earlier that you set up. So hitting continue, now we're back in the home screen. We have our premium plan, and we've just had our first successful external web purchase using paddle hosted checkouts.